Welcome to Wisen Up. Are you planning to move to Canada? If your answer is yes, then you're at the right spot. I'm your host, Ruju. In this podcast series, we will discover inspirational stories, valuable resources, and tips that will make your moving to Canada journey easier, faster, and better. Hello. Thanks for listening to Wisen Up. Today we have with us a very dear friend of mine and my co-host, Ron Johnson. Ron is a certified Canadian success coach, life transition consultant, motivational speaker, instructor, and entrepreneur. He has helped hundreds of Canadian new immigrants to become successful in Canada. Our guest speaker today, on the other hand, is Ron's student as well as a dear friend. Saugata Das is an immigrant from India who is a very well established program manager. Saugata has worked with large organizations as well as startups in multiple domains. Today, we will hear about Saugata's journey of moving to Canada and top 3 reasons why one should choose Canada over other countries. Ron, over to you.
Thank you, Ruju, for hosting us today. It's always a pleasure co-hosting the podcast Wisen Up with you. Saugata, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Ron, for having me over here.
So let's start off with our first question, Saugata. Before you started your whole Canadian journey, how did you make the choice of choosing Canada versus all the other countries that you could immigrate to?
Okay, so what I was doing was what I found was that the amount of time that I was able to, even though I was earning a lot in India, the amount of time that I could spend with my family was very less. And this was becoming more and more of a problem because I had my kid and he demanded some time. And this was something that was not there. Being in Bangalore, I think a lot of you will understand. So that was the uppermost reason in my mind for making a shift to any other country. And the 2 countries which I was looking at was one was Australia, the other was Canada. And it happened just by chance that at that point of time there was an immigration, some event about immigration for Canada, and I went to that and I got hooked. And I thought that, well, I should give it a try. And I really did not have the certainty in my mind that I would go ahead and actually apply, but stage by stage, I just got hooked and I thought, well, let's do this because, life in Bangalore become more and more difficult just because of the timing reasons. So I wanted to give more time to my family, which was not possible.
Yeah, I remember you telling me that the actual commute, the traffic in Bangalore got so bad that even making like a 5-kilometer trip was taking you an hour to get from one place to another, and a lot of time was wasted in commutation. And so you said you went for an actual live event. Was it one of those events conducted by the immigration consultants?
Yeah, it was by immigration consultants. It was the consultancy was CFS.
And what did they say? Basically, they pitched the whole idea of why Canada is a good place to move in.
Yeah, they pitched the whole idea. And they gave us a view of what a FSW was, what a PNP was, etc., and how it would work out, not in complete detail, but overall. And I thought this was achievable, so that's why I applied.
Now, did you decide to apply through them, or did you decide to do it by yourself?
No, I applied through them.
Okay, so you created a file. They checked your eligibility, and then you submitted all your documents to them.
Yeah, that's what I did.
Okay, and when was this? Was this 2016, 15?
2017.
2017.
Yeah.
Okay. So you went to them, you applied, you paid them their fees, and then what happened after that?
Yeah. So it's not like they did a lot of work. I personally did a lot of this documentation, etc. The place where they helped us was actually when we applied. There was a point where Anupa's, my wife's WS got stuck, and their
Mm-hmm.
immigration lawyer over there helped us out. So that
Okay.
was the only place where they exclusively helped us. But
Mm-hmm.
otherwise, it was pretty simple for us. And the moment that we applied, within a month, we hit that score and got an invitation to apply.
Oh wow, well, that's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so the WES part was the educational certificates being verified by the World Education Services, right? So
Right.
the lawyer you were mentioning, was it a lawyer from India or a lawyer from Canada?
From Canada. So what
Okay.
happened was, the place where we had sent was actually for American documentation rather than Canadian documentation.
Okay.
And so they needed to shift those files to the Canadian department, and that's what was taking time. So that's where he helped.
Okay. So you sent the transcripts. You're the one who actually contacted the universities, got the transcripts, and you sent
Right,
it out to this address, which was in Canada.
right.
The address was in Canada, and it just went to the wrong department, so you had to switch
Yeah,
from the
exactly.
American department to the. So they don't have a center in India where you can send these
No.
transcripts to. Okay. Okay. So once that happened, so you got the invitation within a month. That's again like really, really fast.
Yeah,
And then what happened after that? This is 2017, right?
right.
Yeah.
So we apply. We completed the to dos, and then we decided to do a soft landing,
Okay.
and we did it in March of 2018,
Was it
and we
18 or
stayed here
9? Yeah, 18. Okay.
18, and
Yeah.
we stayed here for about 2 weeks.
Okay.
And what I did was I started. So I checked online about events which were being held over here, which I
Uh-huh.
could attend, a couple of them, to understand what was the job market like and how did it go, etc.
Uh-huh.
And so one was from CGI, which I remember,
Uh-huh. So
and
CGI is a IT services company from Canada, and they had an event, a job
yeah,
fair.
yeah, they had a job fair,
Okay. Was
and
this in Toronto?
it was in Toronto. It was in Marriott downtown.
Okay. Okay.
So within 2 weeks, I did all this. But the surprising thing was when I went for the interview over there,
Uh-huh.
and I was expecting that they would be asking some technical stuff about my project management, etc. It
Uh-huh.
was nothing like that.
Uh-huh.
It was very, very, I mean,
Casual.
yeah, behavioral, I would say. And
Correct.
that,
Behavioral
yeah,
questions. Okay. The HR questions. So basically, they were asking, right?
exactly. So
Situational. Yeah.
that threw me off completely. So that
Uh-huh.
was one thing which I understood, that the type of question would be different. The
Uh-huh.
other thing was that I had some conversation with a couple of my friends who were here, and
Uh-huh.
they told me one of them was a project manager who had worked for IBM over here, but when he
Uh-huh.
switched PR, he did not get a job for a year.
Uh-huh.
And what he told me was that it was because he had not been with a particular domain for more than 6 years. And the
Uh-huh.
expectation when you say that you are a project manager is that you would have stuck to a domain, stuck to a technology for quite some time. You are embedded
Right.
with the technology.
Right.
At that point of time, even though I was a program manager in India, I decided that I would need to change my method, because the moment that I say that it's a project management, etc., I mean, why should someone trust me if I'm not stuck with the technology?
Right.
So I needed to sell myself, and I could not do that. So with these information, I went back to
Uh-huh.
India.
Uh-huh.
I got my PR card, and then
Uh-huh.
I came here for the hard landing about a year later, February 26, 2019.
So you when you came to Canada, you were here for 2 weeks. Is that what?
I was
Or
here for 2 weeks.
okay, so you did a soft landing approach. So I remember us having these conversations back in 2017, where I was telling you about your LinkedIn profile, and I told you how important it is to get, to kind of Canadianize your LinkedIn profile, and we talked about actually getting a Canadian number for your resume and your profiles that you get into use. Did any of those tips actually help you? How was the whole experience over there? How did you manage to get those interviews?
Yeah, those were actually the best advice that I could get. And I followed every one of your advice, Ron. I have
Hmm.
followed everything that you have told me. So
Right.
first is LinkedIn. LinkedIn is God over here. Without
Right.
LinkedIn, you cannot survive, you cannot get a
Mhm,
job, you cannot do anything in your professional life.
mhm,
So just as you said, what I did was every day I would go and invite 10 people,
mhm,
some of them recruiters, others from my professional field. I was a
mhm,
scrum master, so I would invite people from agile world. And what I was seeing was I was getting about 10 to 15% success rate.
mhm,
And first thing, I took a premium account. It
mhm.
shows that you are more serious.
Right.
And next, what I did was I created a web persona.
Mhm,
I booked a domain. I created a web page for myself. And then I started writing blogs
mhm,
about the way that I handle certain practical experience and what I did with that, how I did that. And I
mhm,
wrote blogs and I advertised them.
mhm,
Luckily, some of these were a gentleman from Germany. He was running a technical paper newsletter and he was interested. He published them. So
mhm,
I put a call to action on those as well, and I
mhm,
published them in Medium as well, and everything I put it on LinkedIn. And what
mhm.
happens is gradually people get interested. So my success rate of 10 to 15% went up to about 80%.
Wow, that's awesome. I
Yeah,
still remember you would call back and tell me I've implemented everything that you told me, and then
yeah.
you're getting response rates, and you were actually getting calls for interviews while you were in India, right? How did that happen?
So I got the Canadian number, and it was one. I don't remember the. There were quite a few global. It was global call forwarding. That's the agency from which I got the number. So
Okay.
it looked like I was in Canada for all practical
Mhm,
purposes, and
mhm,
that's why I was getting the calls. And most of the calls. That's what also encouraged me to go for the Scrum Master rather than a project manager, because
mhm,
most of the calls were for Scrum Master.
mhm,
And I faced about five different organizations, about
mhm.
10 interviews in total. And two of them said that they would be interested the day that I landed if I could meet them face to face.
Right.
So one was Manulife,
Mhm.
the I
Wow, it's a big
forgot, yeah.
organization. Yeah.
So Manulife, I got the interview, and that was a real learning curve for me.
Mhm,
So this was the third round. Two rounds I had passed in India.
mhm,
So third round, I come down here. Next day, I go to meet them,
mhm,
and I passed that round. And the fourth round, it was supposed to be a walkover for me.
mhm.
I go there, meet them. The moment I get back, I get onto the Uber. I receive a mail saying that I have been rejected.
Oh, okay. I
Yeah,
mean, they said that basically the thank you for applying email. They-
absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah.
okay, but they didn't give you the
So
reason. You didn't know why.
no, they didn't give me the reason. They didn't give me the
Okay.
reason, and I tried all that approach of going to the recruiter and saying, "Hey, thanks for everything, but could you tell me?
Yes. Yeah.
Just for me to understand, because I'm a new."
Yeah.
And the recruiter replied, "I cannot give you that information."
Correct.
Now, there are a couple of ways to look at this. One is that either they might be already having a candidate, or
Right.
probably the way that I approached the interview was wrong.
Mhm,
So what I started understanding was that they were giving small hints in their question,
mhm.
and I needed to adapt my answer to those hints.
Okay.
So if there is a question and I reply back saying that, yeah, I would wait for the team to give me that answer, and someone, the interview panel asked me, but is that true? Wouldn't you challenge the team? That means
Mhm.
that he is expecting that I would be doing something. I would be putting
Right.
a challenge or something like that. And I need to adapt and update my answer immediately. If I stick to my guns, nothing is going to happen. So that's what I
Right.
understood. Yeah. So I adapted that way. And in total, but yeah, uh, one thing
So
that
the recruiters. I mean, was this a technical round, the final round, or was it a more of a managerial round or an HR? Or was the hiring manager there? Who all were there in the panel?
Yeah, so the first round itself was HR round. The
Mhm,
second round was with the hiring manager. The third round was with peers. The fourth round, which failed me, was another round where they weren't really peers, but they were a level above who were like
Okay.
program
Right.
just sort of. That's where
Right.
I failed.
And they were giving you in the question itself, they were kind of giving you a hint as to where they were
Exactly.
trying to lead the answer to. So yeah, so and based on that, you understood and you adapted for the interviews that were coming up in the future.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Right.
That's essential.
And
But
then and go on. Yeah.
one thing with that is that it's very rare that someone will give you a job offer being in India.
Right.
It's not possible. They want to meet face to face because it's very important. They understand that they can work with you. They want to have
Yes.
that feeling.
Yes. And culture fit is very important. They want to be feeling that they can work with you, that you're safe with the team, that they can get along, and that
Yeah,
you will not upset the dynamics of the team and the people in the team. That's
absolutely.
and that's then they can only determine that if once they meet you in person, and that's why it's very important to have a face round. So even though you have a but hats off to you, Saugata, because you are one of the best um, students that I've had in implementing all the strategies I told you, and you got the results right away. Even in fact, the number of LinkedIn requests that you sent every day, I told you to do 10, and you would do 10, and you saw the fruits of your hard work actually coming in, and you were smart enough in adapting your strategy step by step. So when you landed there for your soft landing, you actually had two interviews lined up. So you had
Yeah.
about two interviews before you flew back to India. Is that right?
Yeah.
In those 2 weeks, and that's the most productive use of those 2 weeks. And then you waited for how long before you came back in again?
I waited for about a year. Yeah, it was about a year.
And in that year, you continued the strategy, the LinkedIn approach. Did you?
Absolutely.
Good.
Absolutely. So by the time that I came to Canada, I had about 650 or 700 odd recruiters. And so, I mean, it was not like I bombarded everyone, but I
Right.
was looking at recruiters who were in my field. I was looking at people who were like, in the agile field in Canada there. For example, CGI director of agile transformation, someone like that.
Mhm, mhm. Right. And you started the blog when the blog and the posts and Medium and all of that started before your soft landing.
No, after my soft landing.
So after your soft landing, you went back and then you started creating your online web persona,
Yeah,
started writing articles, and you posted them on LinkedIn.
yeah,
You posted them on Medium, and you networked with other people in the area. So you started creating um, your thought leadership, basically your
exactly.
expertise,
Exactly.
and you established that and gave them credible information that was real life scenarios and problems that you were facing in the agile Scrum
Yeah,
um, domain. Is that right?
right. Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
amazing. That's
So
that
basically
is awesome. Man.
someone,
Go
yeah,
on.
someone looking at that profile would be thinking like this person is capable of thought leadership in this agile arena. It's
Right.
not just simply someone who is implementing something.
Right. And did you continue to get HR round interviews while you were waiting in India and for the year after the soft landing? Were there other rounds that came
Yeah,
in?
I continued getting that,
Hmm.
but it would not be fruitful because the moment I said, I'm in India, I would be going back next week or 2 weeks or something like
Hmm.
that. Would be
Hmm.
saying, no, please contact us once you are here.
Yeah, right. Exactly. So that's the pros and cons of that strategy is that if you're not able to reach there within a month or 2 weeks, you're going to miss out on that opportunity because they have recruitment cycles, right? And they need to close those positions within a month. But you were preparing yourself. You were getting more practice in answering all those questions, and then you had almost 650 new Canadian contacts. So the strategy was actually building up to your next landing. And then what happened after you landed the second time?
Yeah, so the moment that I landed, I mean, I started applying for all these job opportunities either through recruiter, I mean, directly through recruiters in LinkedIn or LinkedIn jobs and
Hmm.
Indeed. These are the two that I actually applied through Indeed and LinkedIn. And I was getting quite a few calls. So in total, I would have attended about 42 interviews.
Before landing?
And no, 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 no. After I landed.
After landed 42 interviews. Wow. Okay. Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, and I would say per organization, I mean, I at least gave 3 interviews. There were very
Hmm.
Wow.
few organizations which would reject me, but
Hmm.
I was just not reaching that goal, and there were multiple reasons for that.
Mhm.
Recruitment in Canada takes a long time. So the
True.
point from where you start giving your interview, the HR round is the first round
Mhm.
that you start with. From there to an actual offer letter might take you 1.5 months to 3 months.
Yes.
So it's not going to happen overnight, and this is a long duration game that you're going to play.
Mhm.
So I mean, I kept on giving these interviews. Some of them I failed. Some of them, the thing got position got on hold or something like that. I reached final rounds for about at least 6 or 7 organizations,
Mhm.
and then I, at last, after 2 months, I got an offer letter from Ubisoft.
Yeah, and you were telling me that you were getting you attended at least 2 to 3 interviews every day in those 2 months. Was that
Absolutely,
what was going on? And so,
absolutely.
so to even before you get an HR interview, right? There is some work that needs to go before that, where the HR interview shortlists your profile and then sets up a meeting or schedules a call. How did that happen? How did you manage that?
Yeah, so I mean, basically, I made it a point where from Monday onwards, on a week, you start with the HR rounds. I mean, I kept on. Firstly, the moment that you are going to apply, you have to use a job scan, which gives you at least 80% match with your job profile and your CV.
Listeners, make sure you sign up for jobscan.co because it is going to save you a lot of heartache waiting to know whether your resume is going to get accepted or not.
Because this is going through ATS. Your job, I mean, your CV is going through ATS, and if it doesn't match at least 80% on JobScan, you can believe that it will not be checked by anyone.
So, JobScan is a tool that is
Yeah,
available.
yeah. JobScan is a
So,
tool, jobscan.co,
okay.
and I think it costs you about $80 for 3 months
Okay.
for subscription, but
So
those
you
are the best dollars
so,
to
so
spend. Yeah.
you put in your job description. You submit the job description in it, and then you submit your resume, and then it does the scan.
Yeah. So you put the job description on the left, and you put your CV on the right, and it will scan and tell you how much is the match, how much is matching, and which are the sections where it is not matching. It will give you exact keywords.
Okay.
So basically,
That,
what it does is the same thing that ATS does.
right. So it's basically your own private personal ATS. So that's a
Exactly.
great tool to use for people who are applying, and you can use it for any domain and any field, right? Any job.
Any any field.
And you said it's
Ba-
$80 for 3 months. So you're paying that as a lump sum, or is it a
Yeah.
monthly plan?
No,
Jobscan.co,
jobscan.co,
right? Yeah.
and it's $80 for 3 months, and it is a subscription which you have to cancel. I mean, for every 3 months, it will keep on deducting.
Okay. You're deducting money. And
So
was there
once you
any
get a
charge
job,
for the?
you cancel it.
Sorry, go on.
Once you get a job, you can cancel it. I mean, like
Yeah.
we have done.
That's an amazing tool to use. And even I was just trying to do the math in terms of the costs that were involved in the job hunt. Did you have to pay anything for the Canadian phone number from Global Call for
Yeah,
Forwarding?
yeah.
Um,
I was paying a monthly fee of $30.
$30 per month. Okay.
Yeah,
So you invested your money wisely. You also invested in the LinkedIn Premium because you
right.
wanted to make sure that you were able to see who all were contacting you, and then it showed that you were serious about the job search in Canada. And then so we were coming back to the question about those 2 months, and every day you were having at least 3 calls,
Yeah,
and you used your resume, the job search tool, job
mm,
search co tool, to make sure that you had about an 80% match before you submitted your resume. Is that right?
absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
So, I mean, once you do that a couple of times, I could predict with 80% accuracy that I will be chosen. I mean, at least I will get an HR call.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I
Brilliant.
would land an HR call. At least
Okay.
I could predict that. I had made my
So
CV
you
in such a way.
and then you were applying every day, and
Yeah,
then obviously they would look at it, and then they would give you a call or send out an email asking you to schedule an interview. And so that
right.
you were doing that every day, and that's how you ended up having at least 3 interviews or 2 to 3 interviews every day for those two
Yeah,
months that you were here
yeah.
before you got the
And
job.
the other thing is, do not be too choosy about the jobs that you are applying for.
Mhm.
If you apply for two jobs, it's not going to help you. I think Roy gave me this advice that you apply for at least 10 jobs a day, and I kept on doing that.
Mhm. Right. So that, and so each of them, the job title will be slightly different, but it had some kind of domain experience that you had. So if,
Yes.
do you have an example? Like, so you said Scrum Master was one. What are the other titles that you were looking
So
for?
some would say Agile Project Manager,
Uh-huh.
some would say Agile Coach.
Uh-huh.
Anything will go. I mean, the moment that you understand it's from Agile world, you just apply for it.
Okay. Okay.
Jobs
Awesome.
can
And so
tell
you kept
you
go
jobs
on.
can tell you where you are going wrong in your CV. So you change your CV just like what jobs can tell you to do.
And in your application approach, would you say about 80% of that was through LinkedIn and then 20% on Indeed? Or did you what would you say approximately was the division of the application?
No, I mean, in this case, you need to be careful because some organizations only go through Indeed. Some
Uh-huh.
organizations give value to LinkedIn.
Uh-huh.
So, I mean, you need to be checking both of these simultaneously because some
Uh-huh.
organizations e- e- they will not advertise in LinkedIn at all. They will just advertise in Indeed. So you will be missing out on those if you are not looking at them. So I would say keep a lookout on both of them at the same time.
Okay. Okay. And all those recruiters that you added on to your LinkedIn profile and the connections, did you end up getting feeds from them about new job positions that they were posting, or were you getting all your job posts from job advertisements or that were put officially by the companies?
No, no, I got the lot of feeds from them. A couple of them I converted as well. I remember one from North York, which was
Mm-hmm.
called MIS. I got to
Mm-hmm.
the last round of that as well. So it was purely from the feed.
So these are not official job posts. This is someone sharing saying there's an opening up. Is anyone interested in this position? Nothing. It was not. It was an unofficial post rather than an official job post, right?
Yeah, I mean, we are looking for the so and so position, or
Right.
maybe the director or someone has posted something and this recruiter has liked it. And
Right.
the moment it comes up on the feed, you apply for that.
Right. And so now in this journey from 2018 and 2000 to now we are in 2020. When looking back, right, you had some ideas about Canada before you came to Canada, and then you had ideas when you did your first landing, and now you've experienced both Montreal and Toronto. So how's the journey been? Like, what have you learned so far? What were your expectations before, and what are your understandings right now?
Yeah, the so the expectation. I mean, as I said, the primary goal that my son should. I mean, I should be able to give a better quality of life to my son. That is
Work
coming
life
true.
balance. Yeah.
Yeah, work-life
Yeah.
balance, and he is not in the rat race. You know, he can take his time off.
Right.
Education is pretty laid back, so he does not need to be in that sort of a scrum of his own. You know, that
Mhm.
that all is coming true. But
Mhm.
I mean, for generally, I mean, for your life, it will become a bit more difficult than what it was in India because we get a lot of help in India,
Mhm.
which is not going to be here. Here,
Mhm.
everything has to be
You have to
handled
do
by
by
you.
yourself.
Yeah,
Yeah, you don't
exactly.
have help, like you don't have drivers to take you around, or you don't have help to do the household chores. You don't have your parents support to help you in raising the children. So those
Yeah,
kind of help that you have in your personal life is missing in Canada. Everything has to be done by ourselves.
yeah.
And but your primary motive of being able to spend more time with your son, being not wasting time in commute, being able to have more time for yourself and having a more healthy balance between work and your personal life has been achieved, right, in term in Canada, especially because
I
of
mean,
the Canadian work life.
yeah, a lot of that is supported by your organization which you work for over here. Because, for example, they will tell you that hey, it's a nice day out, so why don't you take a break and just take your kid out? You know, but people understand over here.
Right.
Family life is primary, so take care of your family.
Yeah, in Canada, we even have a day called Family Day. It
Yeah,
actually tells you, right, they're giving you a day off to actually literally go spend time with your family. It's a 3-day weekend. And those are the many perks that people look for. Many people who have actually reached out to me, they're, one of the main reasons is for the future generation, for their kids to, for a better future, access to better education, great universities there. Education is free and it's pretty good all the way to high school. And even after that, you have a lot of support, financial support to go through your university and get your professional education. The competition is a lot less compared to, say, other countries in Asia or Southeast Asia.
Exactly.
And so it definitely brings about a little more focus and time and to be invested in your kids and safety and security. And also you have a lot more resources to go around because Canada is one of the richest countries in the world. Yeah. So you have the benefits of that. And there's a lot of safety nets in case you lose a job, in case you, in terms of pension, in terms of benefits, in terms of healthcare. I mean, these are all the popular ones that people usually talk about. So after landing, and now you've completed about a year and a half, and now you're working in the company. Do you have anything to share for people that are thinking about trying to consider, whether to go to Australia, whether to go to Canada, whether you should move to Canada, and they're thinking about the same things about having to spend more time or the future of their kids? What would you share with them? What are your insights and wisdom that you have for them?
I mean, I would surely recommend you, if this is the goal, that you want to have a better quality of life for your kid, you should surely immigrate. But if your plan is for, minting money or something, this is not US. So if you are not, some of my friends with at the same level that I am are making about 50 to 80% more than me in US. But in Canada, what you get is a better family life, which is very important. So if you, be careful about your goal. If your goal is not that of your family, or you don't have that sort of a dependency, then you need to adapt to that. Because Canada life is not very simple for the parents. Yeah, it's cold. Winters are long and hard. So those are some of the difficulties that you will experience. But your kids will have an amazing time, and you will get all that time to spend with your family. Long summer afternoons and all that. So if you're looking for that goal, it will be satisfied.
I mean, that's a very valid point you brought up in terms of being clear on what your objective is to move to Canada, making sure that you're clear on what to expect from Canada and what you're hoping to achieve. And if your objective is obviously more time and more quality time with your family and the people that you love, Canada is definitely a great place to spend time. That's awesome. Thank you so much for your time, Saugata. Thank you for making time today and sharing your experience with all our listeners. And I really appreciate all the work that you've put and you've come this far. And I'm pretty sure, it's an important point that you brought about 30 to 40% of the money that they make more in US. You're going to see in the next 2 to 3 years, you're going to bring that down, and you'll probably bring it down to a 5 to 10% differential, because there's a natural progression that's going to happen the more you're going to be in Canada. And there's definitely more tips for me to share in the future too. So I'm looking forward to seeing you bridge that gap too. And thank you so much, both to you and to Anupa, for all that you've done so far, and I wish you all the best.
Yeah, Ron, thanks for everything. And every time that I talk to you, the tips that I get are invaluable. So I have implemented all of them. I will be implementing every tip that I get from you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Saugata. You're so kind. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Saugata and Ron, for the wonderful insights. It was great having you here. I hope you found this podcast useful. Why don't you tell us any specific questions you have about immigration in the comment section below. If you are an immigrant and would like to share your story with us, please email us at wisenouppodcast@gmail.com. Thanks so much for tuning in, listeners. I'm your host, Ruju, and this is the Wise Enough podcast series.